Book of Proverbs, verse 3. It is to one's honor to avoid strife, but every fool is quick to quarrel. Everybody, this is Christian RPG Gamers. So there's two people on the channel that they've kind of been on the channel for this little YouTube channel for honestly a very long time, probably a year at this point. Although I have a hard time keeping the record straight, but one person's I think this guy's name's channel called Scythe Jackal, and this other person's called Dwayne Asher. And I'm pretty sure they both have a YouTube channel too, so go check them out, right? But I mean, like, I don't always take a request, but if someone, it's like I have a level of loyalty. Somebody's been watching for a long time. I'm more open-minded to it. So Dwayne wanted me to make a video on an anime called Tokyo Ghoul. Actually, honestly, I've never even heard of this series, to be honest. But I mean, when I just check it out and just kind of see what some of the stuff says, and I mean, it'll be what it'll be, right? And I'll try to put some kind of a Christian perspective on it. Now, I haven't really been doing this on the. Oh shoot! I can't find my little bubble. I haven't been doing this on the channel too much recently. This channel, in a lot of ways, it does have a pretty strong discernment ministry to it. Although I haven't been like hardcore into that, been doing stuff like that for a while, but there's a lot of different Christian aspects to this channel. So like one part is discerning, like good from evil and like right from wrong, and trying to reveal like different morality or philosophical aspects to things. But I mean, I am trying to be a little more positive too, though, because like discernment can be really negative. So it's like, but sometimes somebody's got to do it, right? Okay, so it's an anime. I think it was a manga series called Tokyo Ghoul. So I was looking at here earlier. So I'll see if I can find what it actually says before I just give my thoughts too much. So I think I clicked on a couple of these different things, but here before I get my thoughts, let me see if I can find something here. Or where was I looking at? Um, 12-episode anime. So it says it was serialized in Weekly Young Jump, or like the Shonen Jump, I think. 2011. It was showing me like bigger numbers, like 2021 here, I think, down here. Reception. It says Tokyo Ghoul was chosen as one of the best manga at the Comic-Con International Best and Worst Manga of 2016. So, I mean, it's got some kind of like name recognition in it. Oh yeah, here's another aspect, right? Okay. So the Chinese Ministry of Culture listed Tokyo Ghoul among 38 anime and manga titles that were banned in China. But we won't talk about that other really controversial thing they're saying there. I don't need to bring that up. Okay, well, I was reading something on here. Okay, but basically, I don't know if I can find what I was reading earlier. The show was apparently very dark. And no, oh yeah. Also, it said on here. Let's see if I can find that. Oh yeah, I was gonna talk about this. It says dark fantasy, manga series. So it's like, okay, personally speaking, and I know this some of this is objective, but there's also subjectivity too, right? I really love fantasy. Like I'm not gonna deny it, right? It's no secret. But I do feel like there are levels of what I'm willing to accept or not accept. Like there are some content out there, entertainment, that is not just dark, it is like excessively dark. And like I enjoy a good story, I enjoy some good characters, and I enjoy being entertained. And also I like I like a good laugh sometimes, and some good action and adventure. Maybe, be honest, I know I am a man, right? I'm a straight man, but sometimes I enjoy a little bit, like some like a little romance or some not too much, right? But just a little bit of some of that like the main character has like maybe he has his like girlfriend or a wife. It's like some little, what do you call it, like a little hot mess they gets themselves into. I enjoy that a little bit. And I don't want too much, but just a little bit. I think it makes it interesting. I enjoy a lot of stuff like these. I like a lot of adventure. I do like a lot of combat. Some of this stuff isn't always the most healthy thing for a person to consume, but I do enjoy a lot of stuff. Like too much military aspects in series is probably not healthy. I do like a lot of stuff like that, but it's not really the best for you. There's a lot of like pagan themes that can exist in fantasy. That stuff's not really good for you. It can be interesting, but it's just not healthy at the same time. There's a lot of stuff out there, right? But there's different variations of fantasy. So dark fantasy is like it's like you have like the reality, and then from reality you have so I guess you could say you have like biographical, or like I think that's the word. Like basically it is like historically accurate reality or retelling of an actual story. Then you have fiction, which is basically people just make something up, but it's pretty much heavily based in reality. And then you have from fiction, you build something called fantasy, and then from fantasy it can go to higher and higher levels. So yeah, so you go from like more fiction to, I think we call the terminology is like quote unquote like low fantasy. And then from low fantasy you go to more like a neutral fantasy. And then from there it can go multiple other directions. Like you kind of go more off to like, what do you call, like the how do you say that phrase? Like go off to like Westfield or something. It can go to dark fantasy. It can go to like I could say they can call it like high fantasy or like very high fantasy. And then there might be a couple other variations. I just can't always think about them off the top of my head. But there's a wide variety of different genres. But dark fantasy is something I think you should be careful of. Now, I do enjoy some fantasy that have dark aspects to them. I've watched, I played video games like The Witcher, for example, or there's like Dragon Age. There are darker content out there. And I think as the Bible would say, like all things are legal for me, but not all things are beneficial. Or it's like, all things are legal for me, but okay, let me see if I can find that quote. Okay, so I found this quote. I'm going to try this version. I don't really know what it exactly stands for. It's called like the AMP. It definitely sounds interesting. So we'll just try this version. I mean, the Bible is the Bible. They slightly changed the wording around, but it's still the same truth. All things are lawful, quotations, that is morally legitimate, permissible, end of quotations, but not all things are beneficial or advantageous. All things are lawful, but not all things are constructive. Quotations to, or bracket to character, end bracket, and edifying, bracket, to spiritual life. Bracket. Okay, so is all things are lawful, but not all things are beneficial. All things are lawful, but not all things are constructive. Okay, so again, I'd say that, again, obviously, as the Bible would say, right? Like, because who cares what I think? The Bible, and is God's word, or his word that was inspired from himself. That's what you should go to, obviously, when it comes to certain, well, honestly, when it comes to everything, but especially for things like this. So again, like, you can watch anything you want to watch. If you want to watch something as entertainment, just go ahead and watch it, right? That doesn't mean it's a good idea. That doesn't mean it's wise. It doesn't mean it's beneficial. It's not going to edify you in the faith, but if you want to watch it, you can watch it. You want to watch, you just watch whatever you want to watch. It's just the truth, right? Doesn't mean it's a good decision, but do what you got to do. So, yeah, this show, I think I was reading some kind of article, or I was watching something about it. It was talking about how it's like extremely graphic. They had to literally blur scenes from it because it was and they had like cannibalism. They had like, I think, like, carving into people's flesh with teeth and stuff. I mean, it was apparently so graphic that even Japan, like, I'm gonna be real with you, Japan's moral lines and what they allow is incredibly lenient and incredibly shady. So like, they have some, I mean, I'm not gonna go and try to go into it, but Japan lets like almost anything go, it feels like. Or what moral standards they have are incredibly lenient compared to what we would normally expect. And even Japan had to shut down a couple episodes, or they had to blur certain things. And like China was kind of just, they didn't like that stuff either. I'm sure the United States probably has an issue with some of these episodes. It is like super, super graphic. So that is something people should take into account. Now, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that this kind of stuff exists. Because there is a level of, I think, that another like a standard, right? Standards are how you you have a moral standard, and that is how you what's the word? Like, how you judge or how you determine whether you should or shouldn't do something, or how you define morality and how you interact with it. Like, there's objective standards and there's like more subjective. So if you take yourself and you put yourself like into the standard, then you come out at the end of it. Or almost like a math equation, like, like you put the variable into the standard, and it comes out as the standard will basically rip it apart, or you go through the fire, and if you come out at the end of the standard, that's what's valuable, and then what isn't valuable doesn't really go through. So another standard to consider is, I think, the idea of sensitivity. So it's like, being sensitive isn't necessarily a good thing, but there is value to it at the same time. Sometimes people can be overly sensitive, and it's like, okay, obviously dark fantasy has bad things in it. And and another example I was thinking about earlier was from is an old PC video game called Warcraft 3. And that game at the time was extremely dark. I think the only darker theme that came before that, I think, was like Mortal Kombat. So it's like, it's not, these things are like, they scar you psychologically. They're super dark. And I mean, again, like, there is sensitivity that you could choose to look at something. What's the word? Like, how am I trying to phrase this? Like, the idea that, I mean, really every single thing in entertainment, okay, first of all, it's not real. It's a depiction of what could be real, but it's not technically real. So there is that. Also, it's okay. Like, at the same time, there's nothing really wrong with enjoying something that could be really uncomfortable. Like, again, like, dark fantasy makes me pretty uncomfortable a lot. But sometimes I feel like that can be a good thing. But there's, like, maybe you gotta ease yourself in a little bit. So you're not super, say like you feel a little bit discomfort towards fantasy, right? Maybe ease yourself in a little bit. Like, maybe find a video game or watch something or enjoy something that's on the lower spectrum of fantasy. That's a pretty light story. You don't have to, like, go like 100 miles an hour into fantasy. But eventually maybe you try something a little more difficult. Like, again, I feel like sensitivity isn't always a good thing because it does hold you back, and life isn't necessarily easy. Oh yeah, by the way, I was going to say this, but there's a couple of people mowing outside, so it's like, you can hear some of those mowing engines. It is what it is, right? I was going to say that earlier. I just forgot. So yeah, like, being sensitive isn't always a good thing, but I think sensitivity, it can be healthy to have some kind of sensitivity, because it's like the opposite of sensitivity is becoming more desensitized. Or I think even the Bible describes this. It talks about, like, being hardened. So in Holiness, God hardened people he wishes to harden, and I think he doesn't to who he doesn't want to do it to. Being hardened is a good thing sometimes, because life is brutal, right? And being more toughened or hardened can help you to get through a difficult situation. Like a main character hero, right? He's not going to win the story by being weak. He's strong. You have to be mentally strong, and you have to be physically strong to be able to deal with difficult situations. And being super sensitive all the time, you're not going to be able to defeat the boss. You're not going to save the day. You're not going to be able to defeat some dark, evil force. You can't deal with that stuff being weak. Someone like a crybaby, right? Or like someone who's really sensitive and always just super in touch with their feelings on every little thing. Sometimes you got to be like a man. You got to be like a warrior, and you got to be strong. So you have to, sometimes in Holiness, I believe God, although I don't really understand exactly how he created the world and every single thing in it, but he allows some people to become hardened. And when you become hardened, you become tough. So, and sometimes, again, we need people in life to be tough. Because, like, how are you going to beat the bad guys if you're weak? I'm not saying everybody has the right to become hardened, but you see some, like, dark, evil, demonic, spiritual entity, or say, like, I don't know, like dark fantasy, right? I don't know. This is what's called Tokyo Ghoul. I'm kind of just talking more about this. I haven't actually seen the anime, but I'm just hypothetically, right? Because I'm sure whatever you're gonna watch in this anime is probably extremely brutal. So, but yeah, you see see how, like, like The Walking Dead, there was just an army of people who turned into, like, the dead. Someone who just cries their eyes out and just runs away and hides and doesn't want to fight and doesn't want to address it and doesn't want to talk about it, they're not going to defeat the darkness. Somebody who goes out and just pushes through psychologically, goes out and trains themselves so they can, do physical exercise, or, they push themselves to the limits. They see hard things, and they find a way to cope with it, and they just push through anyways. That person is going to be able to defeat that enemy. They're going to be able to survive. And they're going to thrive in holiness. They're going to glorify God. And they are going to, they're going to help their community and their society. Probably be more like a leader and more capable. And I also think being sensitive can be a good thing too. Although being sensitive, especially in difficult situations, it does make you weak. You're not willing to do hard things. Or like The Witcher, right? It was called Geralt of Rivia. He does hard things. He fights monsters. He's a monster slayer. And he lives in a hard world. And you have to be hard in a hard world to survive. And he fights those monsters. He does difficult things. He pushes himself to the limits. Yeah, he has mutations that help suppress his feelings. He's battle hardened. He's been through a lot of crap. and he sucks it up and deals with it because he's strong. He doesn't let himself be so sensitive. Or maybe you can even say like a little bit being stoic. Okay, so then the other side is being more sensitive, right? I do think sensitivity can be a good thing. Because we do live in a society of people who are, it's again, being strong is good, but being like a dick. It's not good to be like a dick. Someone who's just mean and abusive and like a bully. Who threatens people and harasses people and tortures people and just doesn't care about anyone but themselves. You're not strong. That just makes you a dick. It's just the truth. You're not a hero. You're more like a coward. And sensitivity can be good because we need people who care about people's feelings. Someone who cares about people's feelings isn't gonna fight on the battlefield, or not very good. But they can help people. Like being sensitive can be like a healer. You can heal people's. You can slowly start mending the pain and the suffering. You feel like empathy, right? And you can feel people's suffering and their pain, and you can help them relieve their pain and suffering. Like if you were on the battlefield and you were more sensitive, or maybe you were very empathetic, you might be like a medic. You might be working with the support. You might just be a basic soldier on the battlefield. Honestly, if you were super empathetic, you probably wouldn't be. But who's to say? You care about people and things, which is good. But it also makes you generally weak when it comes to combat. But you are very strong because you also you're very in touch with your feelings. And I think that's a good thing. So being sensitive isn't necessarily a bad thing. But if you're in a hard world, sometimes you need to be hard. So that's why in holiness I believe God does create people, or he creates certain scenarios where he makes people tough. Which is a good thing. Oh, some stupid telemarketer there. Probably about the stupid election, right? Yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna talk about all that dumb stuff. I get like 8 messages on it feels like every day I get a message about the stupid election. I'm not gonna talk about that. We'll focus on something else. And they call me from all sorts of different. I mean, I live in the United States, but they call me from all sorts of different states. So it's like, man, I just get sick and tired of it. Okay, but let's just move on. Okay. So yeah. So the idea, I guess, like of ghouls, or there's Tokyo ghouls. Okay, now again, this might be graphic. I don't know. I haven't actually seen this show. Let's look at some of these images. I see this picture of this guy with I'm not sure if that's a mask or he's some kind of power or whatever is covering his face. It's like this blackness on his face. Now, I just don't actually, again, I haven't actually seen the anime. Or what is like maybe the basic plot or something here. I mean, I have tons of ideas what it could be about, but I don't actually know myself. Let's just type in the basic plot. Oh yeah, by the way, spoiler warning, right? So, okay, so ghouls eat people and are roughly 10 times stronger than a normal human. Something about some kind of a special version of a person or a ghoul drinks coffee. Penetrate weapons. Kaneki meets Nishiki Nish Icky, a prodigy medical student, turns out to be a ghoul. Calms someone's hunger. He gets help from Yoshimaru. So they live as a ghoul and a human. Kanaki as a waiter meets Hinami. The two girls who can't kill humans and thus get their meat from Antiku. So there's apparently multiple different arcs. I mean, there's probably, I think there's a whole bunch of really harsh, dark stuff in this. And I don't want to talk about the stuff too much. I mean, I don't know if YouTube likes this kind of stuff. And honestly, I don't even know if I want to talk about it either. I think there's quite a few arcs. And I think they have some kind of drama between like different boys and girls and all these like kissing on each other or whatever. The god of death, Aram Kisoshu. Some kind of like spiritual trees or something. Apparently they have quite a few different arcs. I don't know how long the story actually goes for. I think apparently they had some kind of a TV show. That one had like 12 episodes. They might have like 5 or 6 different arcs. Tokyo Ghoul, still going. Okay, it's about 27 minutes. I don't know how much longer I'll make this, but Tokyo Ghoul list of episodes. Let's just see how many episodes hypothetically there are. So it's horror, maybe like 2 seasons. I've been saying 4 seasons. Wikipedia. It's never really. I've never fully trust Wikipedia, but at least it has general information. So season 2. Season 3, part 2. Again, I don't know how many actual seasons. Maybe 4 seasons and maybe a little bit of some extra stuff on the side. So, also, I'm not really a huge horror fan per se. But okay. Now, I don't know what this person... I don't know what's this person's name called. Dwayne Asher. I don't actually know what this person's looking for out of this, but at least I kind of went through it a little bit. Okay, so on the discernment side... Okay, so I'll try to give some like tips and tricks, right, for whoever might be watching this out here. Honestly, I have no idea. This video might only get like 5 views or something, but it'll be whatever it'll be, right? Or maybe it'll get like 20 views, but... Or maybe it'll get 100,000. I mean, how do I know? But so some things that you should probably be careful of is, I mean, like obviously there's like people, there's like ghouls and people like eating each other or whatever, and there's gonna be a lot of graphical scenes. So you should, if you're gonna watch an anime like this or read a book like this, at least go in with the expectation that it's going to be pretty graphic. It's going to be pretty dark. And like you never really fully know, but I'm sure it's not going to be like just be aware of that at least. And again, like what could be some different benefits from this stuff? So one aspect I think about more, again, like more on like the quote unquote like the adult side of content. One thing about adult content, or very dark or very mature, is they keep it pretty real. They're not gonna like hold your hand. They're not gonna try to play pretend. This is just the way the world is. And there is value to watching stuff like that. The reason is because, it's like sometimes you need things that are real in your life. It's not playing pretend. It's not some like, magic fairy princess where like Mario comes in and saves the day and everything works out good. And you get like little happy ever after, ending, or like some little Disney movie or something, right? It's going to be real and it's going to be raw. But you do believe these characters are probably genuine. And it's probably brutal. And to be honest, there's probably not going to be a happy ever after. Now, I don't know the story, right? Probably the main character is probably going to just be slaughtered to death. That's probably how the story is going to end. It's going to be brutal. Most of the main cast is going to be killed off. The enemies are going to be ferocious. There's going to be... people are going to betray each other or just do terrible things to each other. So just expect that, right? But like, again, it's going to be real. They're not going to try to, pull the wool over your eyes. They're going to show you what it's going to be. It's going to be like brutal, but it's going to be real. And sometimes I like watching something that's more authentic. It may scar you psychologically on some levels, but at least they're going to be real with you. So again, that's kind of like a positive, right? Like you watched or even if you watched was it like The Walking Dead or The Witcher, or they have some darker aspects to them, or I don't know, you got Dragon Age 1, or you got Warcraft 3, or I don't know, there's a ton of different dark content out there. Or or it could be very, very deeply drama-based heavy stuff. It's going to be real. Or at least going to be simulated as if it could be real. But they're probably not going to be lying to you either. That's just how the real world is. Or in like horror, right? You got now I personally I don't like horror very much, but there are stuff like zombie games, or you got got like Fallout, or you got like Dying Light 2. You got games that are set in like post-apocalyptic worlds, and then they're harsh, they're brutal, and they're not loving, and they're not forgiving. But you can learn a lot from them if you're willing to, or you can learn why bad things are bad, like Grand Theft Auto. Why is that series bad, right? You'll find out. It's like it can be pretty bad. You can learn why bad is bad and why you shouldn't do that. Okay, so yeah, that's about Tokyo Ghoul. Now, I'm not gonna just take requests from every single person that ever asked me a request, but every once in a while I might. So, especially I feel like especially if you deserve it and you deserve loyalty, like some people do, like this person does. Okay, so those are some of my thoughts on it. Okay, let's see if I can leave off on a happier note though. I'll talk about this instead, for just at the very ending. So I would like to go through and talk about more animes, or more and just more of that kind of stuff, like anime stuff, or all that kind of stuff. So I might make a video about My Hero Academia. I mean, I don't think I made one on Naruto on this channel. I'm gonna talk a little bit on Naruto. And then there's a few other series out there. I might go talk about a little more about these stuff. So I also might not. I mean, no, in holiness, if God is willing, we'll see whatever He wants, right? But yeah, just enjoy your content. Be careful with the darker stuff. Try to find more spiritual light that you can consume. So, but in holiness, submit to God's will. Maybe He wants you to be hardened. Maybe that's necessary for your life, and maybe it isn't. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. God is good.